Google is taking over Moffett Air Force Base. They are leasing it from NASA. That's right, for the next 60 years. There's Moffett Air Force Base right there. It looks like it's something out of Star Wars. That looks like a transporter leaving Hoth or something. As part of the lease, Google is going to take over the airfield, while the US government is going to retain ownership of it. And it's a little curious, what is Google doing with an Air Force base? We've got a NASA statement. Once renovations are complete, Hangar 1 will again be home to high-tech innovation as Planetary Ventures begins using the historic facility for research, development, assembly, and testing in the areas of space exploration, aviation, rover robotics, and other emerging technologies. Hangars 2 and 3 will be used for similar purposes. Okay, so that's what NASA is saying about it. I thought the story was interesting because, you know, we've got Virgin Galactic. They actually had a pretty bad mishap about 2 weeks ago, but private companies getting involved in the space thing. So it's a little unclear as to what Google's going to do here, but between Virgin and Google doing this, you know, Apple's building that freaking, what is that thing, that octagon that I think is going to be a spaceship. And like, is Google building Elysium? That's pretty much my question. Like, are they building something there that's going to go out into space, and then the Earth is going to go to shit, and the Google employees and the Apple people, they're going to live up there, and we're going to be down here with the suckers?
Yes, probably.
Yes.
Probably.
Pretty much.
But if so many companies are getting into the space race, I mean, is that a safety issue as far as, you know, people doing whatever the fuck they want up in space?
Meaning that private companies doing it instead of government.
Yes, yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah. What do you think? Are you okay with this idea that private companies, we don't know exactly what they're doing here, which is why I'm interested in it.
Fully okay with it. I think this is great, especially with like cuts to funding for NASA. You know, them not having to do the operations for this means they get to actually spend more on R&D and space exploration and stuff like that. And I'm pumped about private companies getting into the space race. I mean, that's like the only way we're going to get there and sort of figure it all out. I mean, it's like Google's building their own sort of Area 51, except we all know where it is. I mean, I'm hoping.
So do we need NASA anymore? Because it seems to me like during the Cold War, like we were in a space race, right? Russia wanted to get there, we wanted to get there, so it made us do it. And because we don't have that anymore, there just seems to be no, we're doing so. We don't even fly, you know, we haven't been to the moon. Do you know when the last time we've been to the moon?
30, 40 years
It's something
ago.
like
Did we go to the moon?
And did we go to the moon? Good question. But it's something like 1971. It might be 1973. I might be off. But we haven't even been back to the moon. You know what I mean? And now they're saying, well, we got to get to Mars, so forget the moon, nothing there, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm kind of on board this idea that private companies can get us there. But so is NASA even, what's the point of NASA at this point if we can sort of farm this off to Google and to Virgin and the rest of them?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this makes sense, but the thought of when airplanes were first invented and people were making airplanes, but then you had the Air Force come in, it wasn't even the Air Force, but the military come in with, you know, better planes, and they went to war. If we're having private companies make these spaceships, I think the government has to have the ultimate version and an even better version than the private sector does. I do think that NASA does need to exist. I mean, I'm curious how much were they using that space? Were they using it at all? Was it just a waste of money? That makes sense that they should lease it.
So I'm sure
it was a waste of money.
There's no doubt about that.
And that's another thing. I mean, I think that, like my opinion on a lot of other industries, that private public partnerships are sort of what's going to get us there the faster and with the best sort of regulations or lack thereof in some cases. But this is, I mean, this is a perfect test case, right? It's something that's extraordinarily expensive that I don't necessarily want my tax dollars going towards, but that I do want the government still to have some interest in, and I know they do. And more and more, I think commercial spaceflight is going to become something that the public is, you know, I think by the time we're all old and sort of in our wheelchairs, our grandkids are going to be like, oh yeah, last weekend when I was in space, I did, you know, this.
Yeah, was that the
I'm hoping,
party
and the only way
Saturday?
we're going to get there is if companies like Google or Apple or whatever else, Virgin, start to put a ton of money into it.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Google and Apple at this point are basically more powerful than the government? Like, they pretty much, they have a shit ton of money. The government seems to be broke. Like, they're building things that are gonna get us to space. Like, it seems to me that if Apple literally, like, if Tim Cook wanted to be president of the United States, I don't think it would be that much of a problem to make that happen.
But I think that's the point. Like, he's not the president, and I don't think his aspirations ever will be. He's a private sector guy through and through, and no one who has spent their life there and then gets into the public sector is like, this was a great idea. I don't think.
But if Steve Jobs was around, don't you think if he had said, all right, I want to be president now, it would have just happened like that? Like, he could have easily been president in 2 years.
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so. I have nothing to back that up. But I
It's
don't
just a
think
gut feeling,
because
okay?
It's just too many flyover states that would be like, I don't trust that guy. You know, too many Republicans and people on the right that would just be like,
states
no.
that can maybe be bought with massive advertising budgets.
Right. Instead of Google leasing that from the government, could they just lease Kansas? You know what I mean? And start some work there. That's
Yeah. All right. Final thought on this: do we have to get off this mortal coil that we're on? Whenever I do these space exploration things, I always say I'm a big sci-fi guy. All these movies like Avatar and Elysium, all these things where we end up, you know, basically raping the Earth, and we're just gonna mess it up between global warming and overfishing and all that stuff. Are we gonna have to? Is that the next step in evolution of humans that we're gonna have to go? It's sort of like Battlestar Galactica. We were here, we screwed it up, and now we're gonna go somewhere else. Like, is that it?
I hope it's not that we have to, but that we want to, and that it's, you know, our intense curiosity that gets us there, and not because we're forced off our planet by it imploding or something crazy.
Yeah.
Because it is within human nature to want to explore and want to go see things that others haven't. So yeah, I hope we do actually finally get some of us off of here.
Yeah. All right,
Some of us.
Yeah, that was a much more pleasant ending than mine. We have to get off here. Maybe we're just going to choose to, and that's what being human is all about.